So yep, this is going to be the losers round 2 game, best of 5 between Popeye and Vertex, in a series that I'm quite like. Hello there, Wattle. Looking forward to quite a bit. Seeing if Popeye could step up to the plate, sort of on time-ish. We were a little bit late, Wattle. But yeah, like I said, when I was having a talked with Jesse last weekend, hello Jesse as well, about this matchup, he reckoned this is a pretty good chance for Popeye to maybe cause some sort of upset, depending on how obviously strong Vertex is on the day as well. But yeah, we'll have to see how the series plays out a bit. Fortunately, we had a slightly disappointing series yesterday, but I'm looking forward to the series again today. And yeah, like I said, so this series is between Popeye and Vertex, but we do have another series. It's going to be starting at 18 GMT. That's going to be between Hume and Black Waltz, which also should be a pretty good one. Yeah, I'll get us into the drafts now. They have completed, but like I said, I was just going to let us sort of the players sort out the lobby and stuff. So now I can go through the drafts. And I feel like Vertex usually tends to pick the sort of more classic maps. Citadels is banned by Vertex and Continental is banned by Popeye. And maybe it's like something like Inland I'd expect from Vertex. Obviously we always have Highland as our first map, just as a quick reminder, but I'm sure you're all aware. Oh, Coastal, okay. Fairly similar to Continental is Coastal on the 1v1 maps. And I feel like Popeye, in some of his series, he does like to pick more open maps, and he does go for Sahara as well. I was going to say I wasn't sure if he'd feel confident picking those maps up against Vertex, and then we do this in the Inland as well. Hi Inaz, good to see all the familiar faces in the chat already. Okay, and Inside Out is picked by Popeye, so he does pick a closed and open map. I kind of like it when we do have at least one closed map in this pool, just because, like I said, I feel like it makes a few of the civs kind of rely on those maps being in the pool for them to really be playable. It kind of strains the draft a bit when there isn't a closed map in there. See what they both ban. So they both ban the Shang. I've seen a lot of people still banning the Lakviat. Like I said, they're still obviously very strong civ, and both players do pick it. I personally felt like in the current version of the community patch, the Lakviat a little bit weaker. I still think they're a top tier civilization, so it's not surprising to see them pick that. Wattle's cheering for Popeye. Carthaginians is picked by Popeye. Persians and Minoans by Vertex for the quickly. Macedonians by Popeye. That's quite interesting. Phoenicians picked up. Yamato's still in the mix, and we're going thick and fast. Yamato Romans. And we haven't seen an inside-out civ for Popeye. Assyrians picked. We do still have Egyptians left, so that's quite interesting that neither of them... And Hittites both as well. And Palmyrans. Wow, Hittites didn't make an appearance here. Obviously on Citadels they're almost the kings there, but they're still pretty solid civ on inside-out. They have had a slight nerf in the recent beta patch. The faster researching wheel time for the Hittites is less fast now. Still pretty fast, but less fast. But yeah, I think the most quirky thing is the Macedonians being picked up quite early. And I've seen a few people still picking the Persians slightly early on. In my opinion, the Yamato are just better than the Persians on basically every map. So Vertex still got the Yamato, but I would have preferred to see this the other way around. Minoans fairly early on makes a decent amount of sense with Coastal and Inland in the pool. Phoenicians just yet strong civ. Carth obviously picked up quite early on as well by Popeye. And some players still liking the Assyrians over the Hittites, which is obviously everyone has their own view on what civs they prefer. Like I've said personally, I just think the Hittites are a better version of the Assyrians, but Popeye just feeling he'd prefer that civ there. And we do see the Palmyran sneak in again there from Vertex at the end. So it looks like actually they're already up and running, so we will just get ourselves straight into game 1 here. No messing about. I guess these two guys are both a little bit, well, especially Popeye's a lot more used to the Return of Rome settings that we usually use. So we'll mute the music and just get straight in to game 1. And interesting, the civilization picks here, a little bit different as we load into the game. Let me find my capture age, there we go. We have the Macedonians versus the Palmyrans here. So I have actually in the past played Macedonians on Highlands as the first map. Ooh, okay, we already see Popeye actually going to be the first to claim that. Ooh, actually no, I'm going to quickly skip back there just because I think we missed the first couple of minutes. Just want to see. Okay, so yeah, it does look like Popeye did grab the central elephants, but fortunately for Vertex, both of the sort of outer ring elephants were together and on his side of the map. So it is going to be even Stevens on the central elephants there. But yeah, like I said, quite unusual civilizations picked up here for the first map. Quite interesting base for Popeye here. He's got a very closed off section. He's not got a huge number of resources in that. Ooh. That was a little bit clumsy by Popeye. So, okay. What happened there? I guess he just got stuck on the gold. Ah, right, yeah. I guess, yeah, the wood was blocking that. Okay, so, well, that a little bit of a false start. It happens, it happens. But that is Popeye's re for the game. Like I said, he did have quite an interesting map. It would have been quite easy to sort of building wall the front of the base here. That wouldn't have left him with much space, though, so that might have actually worked against him. But I guess now we will never know. F's in the chat, boys. So we will get us hopefully back into game 1 fairly quickly. But yeah, obviously, like I said, it will still be Macedonians versus the Palmyrans. And as I did say in my video, talking over the patch and what tier list and whatnot, I am quite a fan of the Palmyrans, so I am pleased to see them coming out a little bit more in this tournament. They do occasionally come out now and again, but I feel like it does tend to be one of the rarer civs. But yeah, Macedonians, I unfortunately put them as my bottom tier civ of every civ in the game, just because I feel like their bonuses aren't. They do have some good bonuses, but I don't feel like they're enough to sort of give them like a huge edge at any one point in the game. But we'll see if Popeye can take advantage of them here. Hello there, Kins. It's the first time in the chat you've seen that. Yeah, so Popeye again, very quick to the centre of the map, and he is going to grab those central elephants again. I think this is another outer elephant, which is seen. Sorry, that's the Gaia view. So he is actually going to see. Well, this obviously the big advantage of the Macedonians in the early game is their extra line of sight, and you can see here that's worked out very nicely for Popeye here. So, like I said, despite the Macedonians not having a huge bonus in the early game, if they can utilise that to grab some extra early resources, that will obviously give them a decent advantage. Be interesting. I mean, it's funny, like, crocodiles do have food on them, so technically Vertex could lure this all the way back to his base for 100 food. I think they're quite slow, though, so probably would take quite a long time to lure that back. Probably wouldn't be worth it. And we can see the other central elephant is up here, which unfortunately is not the direction. It's one restart they get. Vertex may be contemplating wielding his restart just because he's missed all the elephant in the centre. And obviously food, very important resource. Yeah, okay, there we go. That's interesting, but well, both of the restarts out of the way. That's a bit of a weird one, but there we go. Like I said, food, very important resource for the Palmyrans at the start of the game, just because their villagers obviously cost that extra 25 food. You want to keep that villager production going. So that was unfortunate for Popeye there, because he got a very nice start. You can see he's got 4 elephants around the side, around his base, and he's only 1 tile off finding his other one there. But again, third time's a charm, as they say. Well, both of the restarts are gone now, Naz, so hopefully we don't have any too bad spawns for the maps in the future, because obviously that now means no restarts left on the table. I don't know if we actually have like made an exception for like an admin restart if some of the maps are just completely bugged, but I think that's basically never happened, really. The Rise of the Ancients versions of the maps tend to be fairly consistent spawns. So, like I said, hopefully we'll get ourselves back in the lobby pretty quickly. Popeye's pretty good at getting... Yeah, they're already in the lobby now, and they should hopefully launch any moment. And like I said, it's best of 5 series. I'm fingers crossed that Popeye is going to be able to bring his A game here, because we've had quite a lot of one-sided series so far this tournament. I've just realised I've got my starting soon. I always forget to turn that off. I need probably need a hotkey to turn that off. But anyway, here we go. This is live FDIS. We are live for this series. The weekend games do tend to be live just because I just have more free time on the weekends. It's usually during the weekday, sometimes that the players play during the day and I work during the week, so I'll usually have to do replays in the evening. Again though, Popeye first to the middle. And did he see this elephant here? I don't think he... Oh no, he did. There we go. So is he going to get that one on the way back as well? So this is another pretty solid start for Popeye. And Vertex, for some reason, didn't go exactly to the middle of the map. I think he would have been slightly late anyway, but he does at least find the one elephant this time. Not as good as the very first game where he found 2 of the central elephants. And Popeye, is he going to spot this? Or is that the classic one-tile miss? It is. He's going to try... Maybe there was like a bit of a half push on his gazelle there. Unfortunately, a few of them ran away. But yeah, one-tile miss on the elephant there. It's not the absolute best start he could have got, but you're still pretty pleased with finding 3 elephants straight away. But yeah, Vertex finds one of his own elephants and brings the other one back from the centre. And again, we've got a sort of curious spawn. Obviously, it was Popeye we had before with the woods all the way to the edge of the match. Vertex, sort of similar spawn. Obviously, you'd have to wall off the back of his base, but somewhat closed flanks. A little bit more open front though, so I think this will be a little bit more difficult to wall off. Yeah, they're very, very exposed at the front there. And a somewhat similar-ish spawn for Popeye. Obviously has the gap in the wood line on this side, but it's a reasonably open front and somewhat simple to close off flanks there. It does have the gold tucked in. Obviously, yeah, the gold was at the back there for Vertex. Obviously, that'll only really become relevant if we do reach the Bronze Age, which doesn't happen too often on Highland, but it's not completely unheard of. So it's going to be interesting to see what the game plan from Vertex is on the Palmerians, because obviously one of the civs of the game with a slightly more unusual start as the storage pit goes on the wood line. Try and get the Gazelle pushed in nice and close. And Popeye, I think, yeah, it's still open. There's a bit more of a gap there, but Popeye will find his other elephant now. So like I said, Macedonians in the earlier game, they only really have their extra line of sight bonus, which they have to try and wield to find their all the resources nearby. That's like the best you can make out of that bonus, really. But yeah, Palmerians with the more efficient workers, but like I said, villagers I should say, but slightly more expensive is why that start is a little bit unusual, as I said, as we all know. And yeah, but as you expect, the idle TC time creeping up for the Palmerian player, just because sometimes it's just hard to get in the very early phases of the game. You sometimes just don't quite have enough food to keep villager production going. And Popeye's going to still have to do a little bit of work to keep pushing Gazelle in, but he's, like I said, he's still got all his 4 elephants to go off. Might want to move a few more villagers off the berries onto the Gazelle or something sometime soon. Those berries are going to run out. And we are, there we go, clicking up to the tool age now. 21 villagers, so Popeye did add in 1 extra. Alright, Anres. What's the sleeper for? This is just start the game. We can... But yeah, forward villager from Vertex going up on 19 vills. So quite a high number of vills for Palmerians. Like I said, just because our villages are a lot more expensive. So it's gonna be, what's that? Gonna be about, trying to do mental maths on the go. About 25 seconds advantage getting to the tool age for Popeye. And the villager forward is spotted, like I said. Extra line of sight on that villager helping out. Barracks going down for Popeye now. So it's not really going to be any sort of rush, it doesn't feel. Although in this matchup, I think it's kind of, the pressure is on Popeye to try and get something done in the early game. As I've said before with the Palmyrans, if they do get to the sort of into the Bronze Age and into the later phases of the game, I feel like their economy is just too strong for a lot of civilizations to really keep up with. And the villager again is going to get spotted. And this feels a little bit clumsy by Vertex. Obviously it is Palmyran villager, so it's going to be a little bit tougher to take down. As we see an archery range come up on the base for Popeye. Oh no, it's not, sorry. Looks like, yeah, barracks was built at home. And a clubber's just going around having a look-see. Archery range at home. But yeah, like I said, for Vertex, he can just kind of think about just consolidating his position. And as long as he can sort of keep Popeye at bay, and like I said, there's no immediate attack from Popeye, it's just building up the bowman. No clubbers built. And this villager is very slowly going to go down, just taking 2 damage a hit. And that will be first blood in the series. Clubber coming across, but no upgrades for the clubber. And sort of a little bit of a weird wall from Vertex, maybe. Oh, he doesn't quite see the wood line there, but obviously we can see that it would be a little bit more efficient to put the wall to the stone there. Has he actually seen? He's not seen there's a gap back here, so hopefully he does make sure to check that. Clubber does come forward, but there are bowmen already ready to receive. And yeah, both players going for a somewhat passive approach, which again I feel will just favour the Palmyrans quite significantly. Macedonians do get a few like military bonuses in the Bronze Age, but they don't really have like the eco to support it much. And Palmyrans with a very open tech tree can usually just match or try and counter whatever their opponents are trying to play. And look at Vertex actually sort of laming these gazelle here. I feel like it's fairly unlikely that Popeye would have actually grabbed these at this point though. Usually gazelle at the start of the game or no gazelle at all. There's some of the bowmen coming out from Popeye. City watching fairly early from Popeye, that's quite interesting. And we do see a little bit of a push out, or not. I was expecting those bowmen to keep going, but yeah, you can already see quite a rift in the score there. Some of that I think would just be that Vertex has maybe done a little bit more exploration, but I suspect another big part of that is going to be the resources gathered. Oh no, it's actually fairly close. That's actually quite surprising. I'm not sure how that is so close actually. That does strike me as very odd. Vertex on 29 vils to 33 of Popeye. And I guess maybe just that sort of going behind a couple of villages a bit earlier in the game for Vertex, this sort of bonus hasn't quite caught up yet. But now the Vertex is transitioning onto the farms. I suspect that eco bonus will be beginning to make a bit more of a difference as Vertex does click to the Bronze Age. And Popeye's a fair ways off at the moment. Yeah, I think he just didn't have the wood. He's just starting to transition onto farms now. But yeah, like I said, it was a little bit unfortunate he didn't spot this elephant earlier on, because obviously that would mean that he could rely on the hunt a little bit longer before having to have the big transition onto the farms. And it looks like we are going to see a little bit of a brawl in the middle of the map here. I don't know if stone mining came. I didn't see it, and it's not in just yet. Should be plenty of bowmen for Popeye to easily win this engage, but ooh, little pause quickly. But yeah, Vertex on the most of the way up is what I'm trying to say to the Bronze Age already. So all he really needs is for these remaining Tool Age units just to buy a little bit of time, and then I suspect it will just be Chariot unit. Oh no, actually that said, he is on the gold. He is collecting gold, so maybe do you see some just initial cavalry, but I don't think I've seen a stable just yet. What's this going around here? It's just a bowman. Hopefully we unpause fairly soon. Unless, yeah, I'm a little bit intrigued by where the gold is going here. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with this pause. Let me try and check in game, see what's happening. They're speaking in Spanish, so unfortunately I can't understand what they're saying. Wait, what? Vertex just put earthquake. Apparently there's... apparently they're not on the correct game mod either. I've just noticed. So that does change things quite a bit. But yeah, unfortunately, I think I shouldn't laugh. Hopefully, everything's all right. But yeah, but unfortunately, it sounds like Vertex has got caught up in an earthquake. He's had to pause the game. I mean, I've never had to. This is a very unusual pause for the game. I guess I'll just return to the thing for now. Hopefully everything's alright with Vertex. This would be a very weird way for a series to end. Let me just double check. Yeah, it does look like... Yeah, because it normally says the alternate data mod. So unfortunately, they're actually... I was praising Popeye for his lobby making abilities, and he's let us down now. But yeah, sorry for the interruption, boys and girls. I might just turn the music down a touch. For some reason, like, I've got this YouTube video for the soundtrack, and it's like the loudest thing ever. And I've got it like on 10% volume, and it's still just really, really loud. Yeah, so again, sorry for the delay. Hopefully we'll have Vertex back with us shortly. I don't know if it's the case that we may need to restart this game. Hopefully he hasn't... Well, like I said, hopefully he's alright, but hopefully he hasn't also dropped or anything either. I don't think I've ever seen a competitive video game played be interrupted by an earthquake, but here we are. Welcome to Return of Rome, boys and girls. There's always something. I'm actually going to take my jumper off, it's quite warm in the UK today. I guess, yeah, we're just going to have to wait, unfortunately. And like I said, hopefully just Vertex gets us back to us as soon as possible. I'm actually just Googling earthquakes in Peru now. see if I can figure out what's going on. Well, this has been a very strange game 1 to series. Like I said, we've had 2 restarts already. And now we've got the nature working against us as well. I'm just checking the Discord just to make sure I'm not missing anything here. I think just the default version of the game, Unres, because there isn't a data mod listed on their lobby, which is like it. Community patch is like quite a lot different from the base version of the game now. It's kind of funny how where we've ended. Yeah, well. Well, it's Popeye. Yeah, it was. I think the restarts threw us off. I mean, if both players agree, you can restart the first game, depending on what happens with Vertex. I will allow it. Hopefully Vertex is with us shortly. Right, I guess that threw your game plan off a bit, because you didn't have your market up just yet. Yeah. Well, I was a little bit surprised neither of you got like the needlework because you were both villagers. You had villagers fighting each other in the Tool Age, and I was like, one of them will surely research it, and then neither of you did, and I was like, oh, okay. And then Vertex just let you beat his villagers to death. But like I said, for anyone who's just joined us or hasn't heard what has gone on, we were in the middle of game 1 of our best of 5 series between Vertex and Popeye. Unfortunately, Vertex has, where he is at in Peru, has experienced an earthquake, and hopefully everything is all right. Again, I shouldn't laugh, but it's just because it's so like out of left field. Yeah, hopefully he gets back to us shortly and everything's okay. I don't think it says he's dropped from the game, which means would have thought it's good for things like electric and whatnot. 5.7. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. And like I said, hopefully he can get back with us fairly shortly. Obviously the most important thing is everyone's alright. Yeah, it's not like a hugely massive, but then it depends how near you are to the epicenter is the thing. I think that's like the most important thing for damage, really. So like I said, hopefully, well, everyone near it is alright. What is that? Why is it like? Was that meant to be like raining on the catapult? Yeah, it caused fractures in the earth crust. I actually can't find the information for this earthquake. I don't know where you found it, Popeye. I like that HA one. Yeah, I'm not really sure how we play this now, because it's been 10... Well, yeah, I presume terremoto is... I don't know why I said that in that accent, but I presume that's Spanish for earthquake. I just put Peru earthquake. Yeah, I was going to say, all I know is that he's Peruvian. Yes. Oh, okay. We're back! And just like that, we're back playing. I guess I'll be using the music. We'll get ourselves back in. Well, that was... I guess Vertex is alright, boys and girls. Oh, hello! Push on the stone already by Popeye. So another 2 villagers killed. And like I said, Vertex just needed to... It feels so jarring going from potential earthquake crisis to back into Age of Empires. But I was going to say, Vertex just needs to try to hold the line. He's got the cavalry coming out now. I think he should be able to do enough to just distract Popeye's bowman here. Woodworking just coming in now, and leather armor for the archers. And yeah, just because of this war being here, I think Popeye shouldn't get too much. Might be able to pick off a farmer or so here, but our cavalry is out. I think there is enough bowmen for Popeye to still be able to take this fight. A little bit of, I think that's just capture age catching up with itself there. And actually, I think maybe Vertex is just able to take the fight here, just with their slingers pushing through. And one cavalry does go down. Popeye does now click up to the Bronze Age, like he was just mentioning in the chat before. I think unfortunately, because they're not playing on the correct data mod, that slightly put Popeye behind. Well, a bit more behind than perhaps he should have been in this game. He's on 44 vills, and he did manage to take out 3 vills at this point now, and obviously you get that extra bit of value about taking Palmyran vills, taking the Palmyran vills out, I should say. But now the cavalry hitting the field, and if my memory serves me correctly, Macedonians don't get camels, so he won't have an immediate response to Vertex's cavalry, and also Macedonians don't get priests either, which are the 2 sort of counter units to cavalry. So Popeye gonna be in a slightly unfortunate spot here now. He is gonna get to the Bronze Age, but I feel Vertex will be able to break through fairly soon if he keeps up the pressure. We don't see any signs of siege just yet, but cavalry going to try and keep punching through the buildings. And yeah, I'm just checking everything. Yeah, he did war up behind there as well. And, Bronze Age is reached for Popeye, and he looks like he's going to try and get himself to the composite bowman. Macedonians would have the 10% faster working archery bonus if they had the data mod on, but actually they have their higher HP houses as their team bonus in the base version of the game. And cavalry are still going to be stopped for now. But again, they're still just chewing away through the buildings. Camels being added in. It's interesting to see that Vertex felt the need to swap into that at this point. I guess, yeah, I feel like he could have just kept making cavalry in this situation. Academy is going down, so hoplites going to try to be put into play. See that Macedonian hoplites are a little bit more resistant to conversion, have that pierce armor, but that's not going to help against the melee units. And Popeye just trying to struggle forward defense here. Does have bowmen blinking away, but not able to do a huge amount of damage to cavalry here. Now the cavalry are in. And Vertex comes through. Just going to be able to sweep up these bowmen fairly quickly. It's a decent number of improved bow already on the field, but they are a little bit scattered around. And composite bowman upgrade isn't coming in, and there's going to be quite a few villager kills now. Wheel only just coming in for Popeye as well. He's probably going to need to try and garrison some vills, getting the extra armor. He doesn't have garrison. Composite bowman still going to take a little while to research, and that's another change on the community patches. It is faster to research the composite bowman. So unfortunately, I think Popeye's worst move this game was not saying the correct data mod in the lobby. I think that's probably the thing that's working against him the most this game. And the cavalry just going to be able to pick off, you can see the count at 10 vills now. And does have a good mass of what will soon be composite bowmen, but arguably Vertex has already done as much damage as he needs to do. And villager lead of 51 to 44 now. And like I said, those are Palmyrian villagers. So I'm sure if I check the resources, which I may do in a moment, but I've got a feeling. Okay, I was going to say maybe if we may see a deciding fight, but Vertex decides to pull out. We'll just have a quick look at the eco. And actually, I'm a little bit surprised. It's still only 900, about 1,000 now actually ahead. So Popeye's been doing a very good job with his eco. Hoplite gets taken down there. Yeah, but we're a little bit surprised Vertex didn't have more of an eco leader. I guess Popeye did have quite a few more villagers as Vertex was working his way up to Bronze Age. But yeah, good number of composite bowmen. Like I said, they do have the +4 armor in, so it's not completely over for Popeye just yet, but he is in a tough position. And actually Vertex looks like he's going to try and respond with compies of his own. Like I said, that's one thing Palmyrians have about them, is just to have that, I think it's almost actually entirely full tech tree in the Bronze Age. You can make all the units. So like I said, you can just try and match your opponent and then have your stronger economy just carry you. Just trying to get some more upgrades for the hoplites in there. Yeah, when they are missing those pit upgrades, they are a lot more flimsy than you'd think. Popeye probably needs to set a gather point for his archery rangers inside his base, because he's just lost a handful of compies there a little bit more easily than he probably would have liked. And we do actually see a bit of a counter attack, which I hadn't noticed, but at the moment it's just chewing through the market. No extra vills killed because he already had those 3. But he is in now, but obviously with the mobility advantage of the cavalry units, Vertex is on the run back. A couple of villagers are going to go down though, and a little bit of a slow reaction from Vertex. He is going to just... Ooh, that's interesting. Well, he's going to get the gate and get all his villagers out. But 3 extra vills do go down. And I've actually just noticed there's kind of like a hole in the wood line there. +4 armor is in, but +4 attack is in for Vertex as well. Nice control of the units from Popeye here. A few more compies coming in from Vertex as well now. And yeah, Popeye just trying to do his best to kite out this fight, do as much damage as he can. He's not actually making units anymore, so I don't know if he's just trying to work his way up to the Iron Age at this point. And that would be quite a brave play, as it might leave him a little bit exposed. There is Stone Thrower trying to get a shot in here. Oh, man. That was pretty nasty. That was pretty nasty. I feel like Popeye is trying to go for the iron. I think it might be a little bit of a dangerous play though. But if you can get to the Iron Age and then you get Aristocracy and the Phalangite out, that unit is very scary from the Macedonians. It's very difficult to deal with that unit there. And yeah, Palmyrians don't get Centurion themselves. They do get Phalangite, but they can't get Centurion, so not the best of answers to the Macedonian Centurion if Popeye can get to that unit. And Vertex does have those stone throwers out on the field now, but it will take them a little while to just cross over the map. And this, I was going to say, maybe it gives Popeye the time to get himself set up in the Iron Age, but it's still going to be pretty tight. 25 units to the 11 of Popeye's. Hoplite still being made. Just a few more techs coming in. And yeah, there's a bit of exposed eco here. I don't think Vertex actually... Oh no, he has seen the farms. That actually, has he seen? Because he's not seen the granaries, or town center, I should say. So I don't know if that's just a spectator bug. Yeah, because he can't see the granary either. I think he doesn't know about this. I think this was probably exploration earlier on. Yeah, good force coming forward now, and you can see Vertex really committing to the Bronze Age. Hoplite's pushing forward, and Composite Bowman was the choice from Vertex, but once the Iron Age is in, these Hoplites are going to have a very high amount. I was going to say this Bronze Shield is missing because it's only +1, but now +2 instantly on Iron Age. +3 going to be in with the Bronze Shield in. So they can get up to +5 Pierce armor for the Macedonians Hoplites. But here we go, another cavalry raid coming through. And Popeye needs to try and get aristocracy in as fast as possible, just so those Hoplites become a lot more threatening. You can just see how tanky these units are, that Composite Bowman not really able to do much, and actually some horse archers being added in from Popeye at the same time. Like I said, I would like to see aristocracy come in. A lot of the units of Vertex being taken out. A few cavalry do run around, going to get a few kills in though. Stone Throwers trying to get a few shots in, but these very tanky Hoplites still missing a couple of Iron Age upgrades that I'd like to see from Popeye. But it looks like, yeah, he's just transitioning to the horse archer. I would have just liked to see the commitment. I guess maybe just because he saw the Composite Bowman, he didn't feel comfortable sticking with the Hoplite line. Like I said, those Hoplites become extremely tanky for the Macedonians if they get all the upgrades in. It's just horse archer transition. This unit is very powerful, of course. It's quite expensive to get out to the field. And Macedonians don't get nobility, so these horse archers are a little bit more squishy than some other civilizations. But yeah, Vertex still committing to bronze. Actually, looks like he is slowly building up the resources to get to Iron Age. And the push continues. Some chariots coming out as well. Potentially just to form a bit of a meat shield. And side chariot obviously on the cards later in the game. Not a huge number. Okay, a couple more villager kills in now for Vertex. But for the time being, Popeye is holding the line, but he's been pushed off his gold. And you can see here towers on the gold side, on the bot side here. And I think, yeah, 2,100 wood sold for only 525 gold. And I think, unfortunately, Popeye didn't expand out onto his... You can see both his extra golds on the south side there. Vertex very smart to tower those off. And I think, unfortunately, that's probably going to mean Popeye just doesn't have any options, really. You can see there's still some horse archers in queue. He just doesn't have the economy to support his units. When you don't have access to the chariot units, you're very light on that gold. And unfortunately, a little bit of lack of future planning, I guess, from Popeye to not just seek out the extra gold on the map is really going to bite him in it. Had himself in a fairly solid position and got pretty good trades in that early Iron Age in the fights there. You can see the KD is fairly close. I think now, unfortunately, he's still just selling resources to get gold. So we can see there's a couple more patches of gold on the middle of the map. But yeah, Popeye really needs to get control of this area of the map. And Horse Archer's very powerful unit, so they should be able to hold for the time being. The Vertex on the way to the Iron Age now, plenty of resources in hand. And yeah, unfortunately for Popeye, he went for like that push with the composite archer bowman. Did get some damage done, and then just went for the Iron Age play behind it, but unfortunately, like I said, just didn't get himself set up on the gold there. And that would have been interesting to see how that would have played out had Popeye got the access to gold there. Because like I said, it got himself up to the Iron Age a reasonable amount early, and those Iron Age units are a lot more powerful than the Bronze Age units. But yeah, unfortunately that is a little bit of a disappointing end. Just because I feel like there could have been a much grander battle to decide the winner of that game there. But Vertex, in the end, gathered about 3.5k more. Oh no, that's way more. Let me go and see. It'll have a better representation. How much more resources did he gather? So about 9,000 more resources in the end from the Palmyrans there. But a pretty solid game from Popeye. I think, unfortunately, like I said, he didn't have the correct data mod, which definitely didn't help him there because he was playing as if he did have it. And the Palmyrans are probably like one of the least changed civs we have in the data mod. Though I think their farming is actually slightly stronger in the original version of the game once Wheel's in, just because of some weird shenanigans. You can see the chat's popping off quite a lot here. Hopefully you're all being nice to each other. I'm sure you are. Let me just restart Capture Age. Actually wasn't Capture Age there. Okay, now it is. And let's go back to the draft now, so we can see that. So, like I said, a little bit of an anticlimactic finish to that game there, which was a little bit disappointing, but it looks like the players were both fairly close in the early stages of the game. That was the Macedonians from Popeye, which, like I've argued again, was one of the weaker civs, so you could... Popeye was still plenty of strong civilizations left in the pool. Can I see what map we are hovering? We're going for Sahara next, so Popeye's first pick. So Popeye, he doesn't have either of the Persians or Yamato, which are sort of go-to picks for Sahara. It may be the case that he does just go, maybe now he thinks it's time to pull out the Latvia. He could go either Karth or Latvia though. I suspect maybe Persians should be the pick from Vertex here though, and actually we are already into game 2, so no hanging around. Hopefully no aftershocks in this one, and it looks like we are on the correct data mod this time. So we are all systems green. Actually, we just have the Latvia mirror. Interesting. I feel like this would have been a good map, like I said, for Vertex to pull out his Persians pick, just because I feel like on some other maps they're not as strong. Popeye again, first to the center, grabs those central elephants. It's interesting, a lot of players don't bother going for the central elephants on Sahara, just because you tend to spawn, you can see here, Popeye very close to the edge of the map. It's a much bigger distance. So a lot of people don't bother just because if your opponent does go and you are slightly late, it's just like a huge amount of idle villager time. Looks like Vertex probably just exploring his near vicinity. Does actually have a pool. There's only the one shore fish in there. There are a few pools around on this map, but I think looks like maybe it is just a set thing actually. It looks like there's only one in each of those pools. But you do get a lot of berries around the centre of the map. There are a couple of extra elephants as well. So sometimes players will try and sneak off and try to find extra berry patches if things are getting a little bit hot in their own base. But like I said, we do have the Latvia mirror, so it's quite likely that both the players will want to try and take advantage of that eco bonus here. Too many things being said in the chat. I can't keep up with everything. But yep, so obviously, like I said, slight advantage early on for Popeye just for grabbing those elephants. Like I said, it just means you can delay going to those farms for a little bit longer. Gives you a little bit of time to gather up those that wood. And Popeye does find one of his extra elephants, the other one just to the south side there. And just Vertex. He didn't grab the elephant, curiously. He did find his other one. I guess he can pretty much go and grab that whenever, really. Does have the gazelle patch here. You could potentially pit here and get the wood, but it's not the biggest wood patch ever. Actually, quite a few. Yeah, there's quite a few smaller patches. Sometimes you do get like a sort of larger clump, a bit like this, in front of your base, and it makes it like a little bit easier to sort of close off the front of your base. But both players, well, Vertex in particular, are extremely open in his base here, which is why the more aggressive Cs tend to be fairly strong on this map, and scouts tend to be a very nice go-to unit, because again, you tend to spawn quite far from the center of the map, so just that extra mobility just comes out in good use there. And storage pit does go out on this tree line here, which obviously is going to be fine for the time being. And you should be able to get enough wood to like get another pit at some point to add in an extra one at another point. Let's try and read some of the chat. Everything's going off. But yeah, both players going up to the tool age. Popeye a little bit quicker, not massively so. Both going up on 20 vil, so it's just a small 9-second advantage for Popeye. But again, pretty solid early game, at least from Popeye here. And I suspect it will be... Well, normally you see Bowman as the play from Latvia, but obviously the military bonus for faster creating military does just apply to all military units, so it may possibly still be scouts. The Bowman do have the extra armor on them, which makes them a little bit more resilient against scouts, but scouts still a decent counter. Obviously, in the base version of the game, they get the +2 armor, whereas in the community patch that's nerfed down to just +1. We just felt it made it impossible for the Assyrians and Hittites to actually even play into the Latvia in the early game. Both players hitting the tool edge. I'm not sure what this thing for Popeye, where it says the player ID thing, I'm not really sure what that's about. Archery range is going down for Vertex. And okay, archery range and stable from Popeye, interestingly. And do we see scouts? We do see scouts coming out. And just Slinger for Vertex. And maybe expecting his opponent to go Bowman as well. But I do like, well, like I said, I feel like scouts is the sort of default play for Sahara. And Popeye is trying to get himself walled up for the time being. First scout, oh no, first scout's already popped out, sorry, it's over here. No pit upgrades for the scout just yet, but it is very easy once you have that tool working in to start picking off vills. And here you can see Vertex already trying to take advantage of the extra berry patches. Scout already gonna spot that expansion though, and villagers probably gonna be forced to run for the time being. Bowmen are here now though, and needlework is queued up behind that next villager. That is not Siege Engineers from Age of Empires 2, that is in fact the needlework tech. Toolwork only just coming in now, so this villager just, this scout just trying to be a bit of a nuisance more than anything. And just a few, yeah, a couple more scouts coming forward. Just waiting for, I think, maybe that tool working upgrade to come in before Popeye really tries to get any actual solid attack in on his opponent. Trying to take out the Slinger. Going to go down fairly simply. And Popeye has switched into Bowman production for the most part now. And not sure how much value these scouts will get out. Obviously a little bit of sort of idle time whilst villagers were sort of running around for Vertex, but no major damage done just yet. And two of these scouts are fairly low HP. No armor in yet either, so with needle working, needlework in for Popeye. Should be able to fairly easily fend off these scouts now. Like I said, the lack Viat with that extra armor. So he has 3 armor with the leather armor in for archers as well. And now we potentially see a little bit of a counter-attack. Quite a lot of bowmen coming forward. There's 9 just on the screen there. Slinger just chilling out back here. Popeye does have a good number of bowmen of his own in defense. And like I said, it looks like the scouts weren't able to get too much done there. Felt like Popeye was only sort of like half committing to the scout play. Woodline has been almost entirely chopped through, so Popeye needs to be a little bit careful about that. Scout can easily take out the Slinger there, no big deal. And now we're going to see a little bit of an engage. Popeye does have the high ground, so I think Vertex is probably just going to be forced to back away. I don't think either player has woodworking in just yet. I didn't see that come in. Yeah, neither player has the woodworking. Popeye just doing a little bit of micro with the scout, just trying to distract some of the bowmen there. Let's have a look. 35 to 32. So Popeye has a little bit of an edge on the eco. Like I said, there was a little bit of idle time caused, which maybe just upset Vertex's early tool age. Good number of scouts. I think he needs the bowman to follow this attack up, though. Needs to combine the units together. But that absolutely huge mass of 25 bowmen from Vertex. I think Popeye may need to consider starting to get some slingers out on the field. Like I said, he does have a good number of scouts, and he is still committing to the scouts. But going to actually try to go for a bit of a counter-attack. If he's going to find the wood line here, that would be absolutely devastating. And he does spot a couple of villagers, but I don't think he himself noticed. He doesn't see this pit. Spots the pit now. A few villagers going for a run here. There's a battle happening on the south side. Loses a couple of villagers on the berries. Popeye still trying to find damage of his own. He's going to be able to pick off this villager here. Or not. Might be able to make it to the TC. Popeye just not quite getting the damage he wants. Big fight on Popeye's base here, which I think he is going to win. Loses all the scouts, which were his sort of like meat shield. Yeah, Vertex forced back. Scouts still being a menace. Another villager is picked up there. I think Popeye probably just needs to commit. I don't know. Is he just... Oh, he's... Okay. Wow. That's actually a good, very good thing to do. Deny the farms there. Quick thinking by Popeye. I was like curious why he was actually doing that there, but that's a lot of wood wasted for Vertex, and Popeye's a third of the way up to Bronze Age already. And again, a decent number of villagers forced idle. So like I said, it didn't get a huge amount of damage done in terms of villager kills there, but I think the pressure has given Popeye the advantage in this game. Where is it? Oh, he's got his big bowman mass here, and like I said, I think he won, yeah, 18 kills to 10 on the KD. Wall hasn't quite gone up yet. These villagers could get caught out here. And Popeye only just spots it now, so these villagers are almost definitely going to get taken out. Bowman going to be pulled back here. And Popeye hasn't switched onto gold. He does have a gold patch here. Villagers running back to the TC. My point being there that possible cavalry transition. He already has the techs for the scouts, so wouldn't be any harm done that. But it looks like it probably is going to be a chariot archer play. I think I would have liked to have seen the cavalry come out, but maybe Popeye didn't think he was in as strong of a position as he is. Vertex does hit the Bronze Age fairly soon after, and he is on the gold now. Wheel not quite coming in just yet, just woodworking for the time being. And yeah, I think it is probably just going to be the chariot archer for Popeye. And Vertex just getting the wheel now. Government Center is going up. So potentially just extra TCs coming down. It looks like I'm not seeing a Government Center for Popeye, so potentially he's just going to try and go for a more aggressive Bronze Age. He has 5 archery ranges now. Wheel in as well. Artisan ship, and here comes the pump. And looks like he's just going to commit to all-in on the chariot archers. Extra archery range coming down for Vertex. I think that's... Okay, yeah, that's his 3rd one there. But he's got 1 Vil just still collecting gold. Which I guess that could cover him off for paying for maybe the nobility upgrade at some point. And maybe some other pit techs. But yeah, chariot archers is the response from Vertex as well. Black Viat are actually unusual for being the only civilization in the game that gets the full archery range tech tree. Unfortunately, that doesn't make much of a difference in the Bronze Age, but just a little fact. Oh, nice couple of picks off on the wood line there, getting good value out of those remaining Tool Age units. And 45 to 37 Vils now. Vertex is still open. He's created the illusion that his base is walled here. Obviously we can see that the flanks are completely open, but he's sort of used, like I said, like these sort of longer wood lines to create a wall. This is where cavalry would have been quite useful to just sort of try and do a little bit, use the faster movement to wrap around, but cavalry archers still pretty good at that. Vertex deletes his own wall, feels confident to push forward. And the numbers are fairly even, but there's a higher number of chariots for Popeye, and a higher number of just bowmen for Vertex. Popeye has the high ground here now, though. And if the start of wars has taught us anything, it's that the high ground's pretty good, apart from when it isn't in the Phantom Menace in that first one. We don't talk about that one, though. Siege Workshop coming forward as well. And a few villages are on gold now for Popeye. Sort of eased off a little bit on the pump. Maybe just doesn't quite have the resources to fuel that many archery. That said, though, another big round of chariots added in. Nobility coming in for Popeye now as well. And I think Popeye, I guess he's probably just waiting to get the stone thrower out to start thinking about breaking out the wall, breaking through the wall. Like I said, we can see, well, I guess Vertex nearly walled up like an entire side of the map now. And yeah, if we chop through here, now there is still a line of trees there, but that house will go down fairly quickly. Chariot archers should be able to be pulled around in response though, and there's no villagers under immediate threat there. It's actually accidentally trapped that villager in there. I don't know if he was trying to house wall, but that villager is trapped now. But we'll have a look at the actual battle. And we do have the push on the front as well. A couple of bowmen taken out, but let's go back to this battle here. And we can see just big advantage for Popeye in terms of military. And now we can see that Vertex has overtaken on villagers now just because you added in those extra TCs, whereas Popeye only stuck on the 1. So I think this push... Ooh, these bowmen are all going to go splat here. Well, yeah, a good number of them. Obviously, they're not too important at this point. Stone Thrower of Popeye is coming out now, but yeah, Popeye really needs to try and get a push through soon. Otherwise, Vertex is just going to start getting the advantage from the eco. I don't know why it's sort of like blocking out Stone Thrower. Okay, it does have long enough range to shoot over. The Vertex just getting in artisanship of his own here. And that wall is never going up, my friend. But yeah, now the wall is open. I guess it just wants to open up a bit more of a gap. Now these villagers are going to go to the damn hell. They do manage to get... That was actually... How did that build so quickly, actually? So, a few villagers being sacrificed for the defense here. Stone Throwers fighting back and forth. Good hit from Popeye on that Stone Thrower there. That's going to get taken out. Another Stone Thrower coming in from Vertex, and this fight... There's a little bit of a fight going on at the back here as well, but we'll focus on the wall here. Popeye still not quite able to... He's just trying to get through the wall here. Villager gets half a hit in there. 3 Stone Throwers traded back and forth. Still a Stone Thrower for Vertex trying to hold the position. Another villager comes forward. whole bunch of villagers coming forward, in fact. And Bowman just being used to sacrifice. Vertex just trying to hold at all costs here. And looks like the reinforcements are being a little bit cut off by Vertex. And Popeye is still not quite able to push through. He still has one stone thrower, which he can use to try and break the wall. Still, Iron Age has been clicked for Popeye as well, though. And potentially we do see him. Yeah, he's gathering gold now as well. So we might see, a bit like in Game 1, the Horse Archers coming out into play. And it looks like Popeye's just going to settle for clearing up the middle of the map. A few villager, quite a few villager kills came in there just because Vertex was trying to make sure that wall didn't get broken down. Interesting that maybe, oh, he doesn't have any stone. I was going to say Vertex maybe should have thought about getting medium wall in there, but he's only just started collecting stone now. 79 villagers to 68. Obviously, it does take us more, because you do have to use more food to make those villagers, so it does take a little time to pay back. And with quite a bit of damage done by Popeye, and obviously on the way to the Iron Age, I think Popeye's still in a pretty solid position. Might be able to pick off another couple of villagers here. And this is something that Popeye's done a very good job of all game, and Vertex still not reacting here. I think that was 5 villagers total, maybe it was 4. But yeah, Popeye just finding those wood lines, shooting on over there. Another couple of stone throwers are ready, but Vertex also has a bunch of stone throwers of his own. I'm trying to remember I think Lakviat do they get heavy catapult? I'm pretty sure they get catapult. That might not even be necessary here. Vertex, has he noticed? He doesn't feel like he's responding just yet. I mean, it has 6 stone throwers now, which are going to be pretty frightening to try and push into. Popeye doesn't have any melee units of his own. Barracks goes up just to try and form a quick wall. Some more villagers going to be sacrificed to the cause. Popeye needs to be very careful now, though, against this big mass of stone throwers. And you may see a bit of a battle here. He's going to lose the stone throwers. Popeye, maybe he's probably, I guess maybe was just a little bit afraid of the number of stone throwers there. But yeah, Horse Archer is the switch. And Vertex probably going to try and start getting himself up towards Iron Age himself, you would have thought. I think I'd like to see Popeye add in a few cavalry units or something. Towers coming forward from Vertex, who's now going to try and start gaining control of the middle of the map. With that stone thrower is going to ease it. Oh, it does trade, so that's not too bad for Popeye here, but obviously still a good mass of stone throwers for Vertex. This catapult upgrade's not going to come in time. Popeye's going to have to build another siege workshop at home. Alchemy coming in. First wave of horse archers coming forward. I think Popeye needs to start trying to push in whilst he has the sort of tech advantage. He's got to suspect Vertex he should suspect that Vertex has the eco edge just because Popeye was on 1 TC for so long. Vertex is going to lose quite a few units here. I think, did Popeye get ballistics? I'm not actually 100% sure. Can't see it. Oh no, he does, yeah. Does have ballistics in, which obviously makes a huge difference. With a high ground advantage to Vertex now. Like I said, Popeye maybe needs to think about adding some chariots in or something like that. No, just the base melee form. Just to try and break this. You could maybe use... I was going to say horsemen, but I don't think Lakviat... Yeah, it's because they get side chariot, haven't given that to Lakviat. And yeah, Popeye, like I said, I feel like he just needs to get pushed in. Iron Age is coming in. It's 95 versus 90. I mean, it's closer than I thought, actually, on the eco count. Going to see another fight here. Stone Thrower is a little bit out of position compared to the much faster mounted units. It's going to be stone coming in, but not getting the connection. Popeye adding in extra TCs here, there, and everywhere. I don't think he has that siege workshop coming down yet, but it feels like he's just trying to get the military mass. You can see 64 to 26 in terms of the unit count, but he's going to need some sort of siege to break through the walls. Medium wall coming in now. Finally, another few villagers picked off. 36 eco kills to just 5, but like I said, Vertex just had that vil production a little bit stronger in the earlier phase of the Bronze Age. But that does bring the vil count to, like I said, still pretty even. And needs to be very, very careful of these stone throwers. Horse archers can deal a little bit better with the stone, because the stone throwers with the 3 pierce armor doesn't do quite as well as the much higher damage of the horse archer. But obviously you still want to be very careful you don't get hit. So like I said, okay, finally here we go. Chariot, just regular chariot being added in by Popeye. Doesn't have the resources for scythe chariot yet. Arguably he probably doesn't need that just yet. He probably just needs like maybe about 15, maybe 12, 15 or so chariots just to rush down his opponent. Again, Popeye's just trying to pick off on the flanks. We're just going to try and break through the gate. There is one stone thrower here, but the horse archers shouldn't be too afraid of that. Popeye is missing the last wood upgrade for the extra range. Again, Vertex just sacrificing a few villagers. I think maybe just, yeah, a couple more villagers picked off there. Storage pit's going to go down. And Vertex pulling his army over. And lots of resources in the bank for Popeye, so I think we should start seeing scythe chariot and maybe heavy horse archer coming through soon. And Vertex losing a lot of units, but the stone thrower is now in position, and they're going to be able to do a good amount of damage there. But horse archers are broken in. Iron Age is in for Vertex now as well. And here we go, some more upgrades coming through. But I think Popeye, he can just keep pushing through here. He's got himself in a pretty game-winning position. Extra walls just going down to Vertex, but that big mass of stone throwers, now catapults. Fortunate thing about those is it's a very slow unit, so it's going to take them a while. Ooh, Popeye needs to be careful. Does lose a couple more. As yeah, catapults very scary. Howl's walls trying to go down, so Vertex maneuvering around, just trying to trap the horse archers there. Another small wall goes in. Big hit from the catapult again. I think maybe Vertex has enough horse archers of his own to potentially clear this up. That said, the maneuverability coming through. But then scythe chariot in now. And fortunately, it doesn't seem like, yeah, Popeye's not found the gold just below his base there. So he is starting to run a little bit thin on gold. He's collecting it from somewhere still, I'm not 100% sure. Oh, there we go, down here. Yeah, he needs to do a little bit of exploration to try and find that extra gold. Obviously, you don't need gold for scythe chariots, but it would still nice to have a support unit to that scythe chariot. And I don't know, I'm not sure if Popeye got enough damage done there. Village count still fairly even. Obviously, it's going to be a scythe chariot much quicker than his opponent. And the scythe chariot's going to do very nicely against everything that Vertex has here. It's quite a long upgrade to come in, so Popeye's just going to keep massing up the units, and he is just going for the chariot archer again. I think, yeah, he's feeling the pinch on the gold. Yeah, hopefully, for his sake, we don't have a repeat of game 1 where he just doesn't get access to the gold. Obviously, not as big of a deal for the like of it, like I said, just because you do have the chariot units. But yeah, the huge mass of catapults is going to be very scary to run into. Fortified wall coming in as well now. Very rarely we see that upgrade coming in. Obviously, Vertex just trying to wall out the map. Chariot archers, more just a scout unit at this point. Well, I mean, I guess he is still massing up. And finally, craftsmanship does come in. Wall is going to get denied here. So another handful of villagers going down. Popeye 115 military units now, 80 chariots, and now scythe chariot is in. I'd like to see staggered formation. There we go. Scythe chariot coming in, and this could be it, boys and girls. Fast and in. A huge amount of damage done by the catapults, but the scythe chariot's just pushing through. Oh my god, that's so much damage done. But obviously the scythe chariot's a lot more expendable than the catapults, and yet Popeye turning around to just finish those off here. And you can see in the queue, and a huge battle in the middle of the map there. And Popeye also flanking around still with those chariots. Wall is open. It looks like Popeye, yeah, we go, he's just started paying attention to top side now. Pushing through the middle of the map. Obviously, Horse Archer is a very powerful unit, but against just this many scythe chariots, it's always difficult. And it's actually Vertex that finds the gold down there first, surprisingly enough. But Vertex in a little bit of trouble now, down to only 13 military units, 80 still, after the absolute bloodbath in the middle of the map. Side chariots pouring forward here. And who needs gold when you have the side chariots? But yeah, Ballista coming out, but yeah, just Vertex I just don't think's ever going to be able to get just the number of military units up again. Losing villages here, there and everywhere. And I think Popeye's done enough. I've just realised this should be one here. I could get that completely wrong in the first game. It is 1-0 to Vertex, sorry. But I think it is going to be 1-1, evening up the series. And like I said, it was just... Vertex committed a lot to those stone throwers in the Bronze Age, and just because that unit is just quite slow, Popeye just able to move those chariot archers around, pick off units here and there. Just got him himself up to the Iron Age much earlier, and let him start massing up the side chariot, fully upgraded for the Latviat here. And now villager numbers completely collapsed. Vertex has tried to sort of rebuild a little bit of a base here, but I think this is GG, boys and girls. You can see plenty of resources to just keep those scythe chariots pumping, and Vertex just didn't ever have the actual numbers on the field to really contest. GG's called, and a very nice game to bring us back to even. Sorry, I had that as 1-0 before, so didn't mean to confuse there, but it is 1-1 in the series. Like I said, Popeye did have himself in a fairly okay spot in the game one, but then the data mod that worked against him, or lack of, I should say. But yeah, pretty nice play from Popeye. Like I said, those early, going right back to the beginning of the game, those early scouts, like I said, they didn't do too much damage in terms of actual villager kills, but they just caused Vertex a little bit of like shuffling around, villagers a little bit out of position, not where they wanted to be, just making it a little bit uncomfortable. And then when we had the pushback here, Popeye had all the bowmen he needed to push back the attack and get himself up to Bronze Age earlier. And it always just felt like Popeye was just one sort of like half step ahead of Vertex, which eventually just led to a bigger and bigger lead. And Vertex did a good job of trying to hold the position here, but he had to commit a lot of villagers to trying to hold that line there. Lost a lot of villagers there, a lot of resources committed. And then obviously looking around here, maybe a little bit later, when the scythe chariot finally came in, we just had the absolute, just watch the replay of that again. So the stagger formation just to spread out the scythe chariot a little bit more, just to reduce that AoE damage from the catapults. And then just the sheer mass of units coming through there. You can see how much damage the catapults still did, but there was just so many scythe chariots there. And then, yeah, from that point on, there wasn't really much Vertex could do. I mean, he had plenty of resources in the bank, he just didn't have enough military buildings to get all the units out into the field. And once the side chariot pump is started, if you don't have military already on the field to deal with it, it's very difficult to stem the flood. Like I said, kind of funny at the end that Popeye didn't find the gold on the south side there. So maybe that was like sort of the one slip up, is just not, again, sort of looking out for his own gold. Maybe a little bit of exploration, but more he should have done there. But other than that, very solid game from Popeye. And I think we got ourselves a series on our hands. Thinks we got ourselves a series on our hand, boys and girls. Let's go back to the draft. So we had the Lac Viat Mirror, which Popeye managed to win out in. And where are we going for the next map? It looks like Coastal is going to be the map, which is Vertex's first choice, so that makes sense. And we do have Carth and Phoenicians for Popeye. For Coastal, I feel the Phoenicians... I think you could go either the Phoenicians or Carth. I think they're both decent picks here. Vertex has both the Minoans and Yamato available. So, would you prefer Minoans on Coastal or Inland? I think I maybe prefer Minoans on Coastal narrowly. So I think I'm going to say Minoans from Vertex. And then I'm not 100% sure. So I think maybe Phoenicians from Popeye, I guess. But I think it's going to be these, not Persians, sorry, Minoans, Yamato, or Phoenicians, Carthaginians. As we get ourselves into game 3. And like I said, it seems like we got ourselves a fairly close series here. Well, I mean, he does have access to the Persians, so if you went for that. But I mean, you could go for Yamato on the sort of mixed map and sort of pretend you're going for water play and then still go for Scout Rush with the Yamato. I think Popeye is a little bit less solid on the water maps. I would expect Vertex. I mean, Vertex has picked those water maps himself, right? Whereas Popeye is stuck to the land. So yeah, I think I'd expect Vertex to be slightly stronger on the water maps. But as you've seen, Popeye is just a pretty solid player at the moment. So I'm sure he can bring something to the table. Game 3 has launched now, so let's get ourselves in. And we do see the Phoenicians against the Minoans, so I wasn't 100% sure, but I was sort of like slightly tilting in the favour of those two civilizations here. And this makes me feel like Vertex probably isn't going to go for a land play. Otherwise, I feel like he would have picked one of his other civs. And you can see here, Vertex has... Actually, no, both players have a thing on Coastal that can happen where the land's actually gone to the edge of the map, which I think actually slightly works against Vertex, because it means it's a little bit harder to get control of all the water. Although, I guess they're still strong on the water either way, so... my point was like if all the water's linked, you kind of if you get control of one water mass, you've got all the water mass, whereas you kind of have to fight for both in this case here. Both players should be able to see fairly. I think they'll be able to recognise. Yeah, Popeye has for sure seen that the land goes to the edge of the map here. Yeah, we might have the strange situation where one person docks on one side and one docks on the other. Although it's likely, I'm sure both players, if the game goes long enough, will dock on both sides. So we'll see how that goes out. And let's have a look at the rest of the maps on the land. You do usually have quite clustered together wood lines here. So you can see it's fairly wallable for both. Maybe a little bit more open on this side. I guess he has the gold here. That could be part of the wall. But sort of a little bit more open in this front area for Popeye. That'd be a quite nice storage pit point there. I think I would have liked that like a little bit closer to the gold. Maybe just like one tile up if I was going to be really picky. Just so that'd be a nice storage pit for the gold later on in the game if that does become relevant. We do see a villager coming out. I think this is probably just going to be exploring for elephants, as we do see an elephant here. So Vertex, well, maybe not actually. Vertex is coming forward, so potentially. And Rez was saying in the chat, possible rush from Vertex. Minoan's not a particularly strong rush civ. They don't have any bonuses on the land in the earlier phases of the game. It's a little bit awkward. I think Popeye would have been better to just house like here and here to actually block this off, because obviously you can always slip around the gap there. Maybe, well, got. I've just noticed there's 4 shorefish in there. Maybe he's got ideas of gathering those later. That's. I don't think I've ever seen that sort of thing before. That's crazy. But yeah, Villager is definitely coming forward from Vertex though, and he is clicking up on 20 Vils. Popeye, it looks like he's actually, interestingly, adding in a few more villagers, and he has got a dock up already. Actually, dock coming up for Vertex now as well, but he has already clicked to Tool Age. And we did see in Game 1 that Vertex's forward villager did get spotted out, and that is going to happen again. Popeye, did he notice though? I'm not convinced he did. It looks like he just tasked that villager to building the house, and Vertex could get away with bloody murder here. Popeye a lot slower to the Tool Age. Doesn't have the wood for a barracks just yet. Yes, he's committing wood to the boats, and he's making another dock. Oh, this could be absolutely disastrous for Popeye here. Just missed that villager. That could have been, the whole plan could have gone completely down the drain for Vertex there. I've just noticed Vertex lost a villager there, so he must have had a villager clubbed to death by an elephant. So not great from Vertex there. Archer range follow-up though. And Popeye still doesn't have a barracks down. He's in the Tool Age. I mean, if he sees this soon, he could maybe try and quick wall. Small walls are coming in, but he's just not going to expect it. Clubber's in now though, so the jig has got to be up. Clubber no upgrades. Villagers run. Needlework can obviously do wonders against just a couple of clubbers. I mean, just clubbers without upgrades aren't really much of a threat either. But needlework coming in now. But this is followed up with Bowman. And Popeye's done a quick job of walling in the wood line there, but Bowman going to be able to take advantage of that. And I think, unfortunately, this may be a fairly quick game 2 in 3 in comparison to game 2, I should say. So the wood line is going to have to try and escape. One villager does go down. Economy going to be forced idle. The barracks did go up and the archery range as well now. The Vertex already a good number of military units on the field. He's already got himself set up on the water as well. So yeah, Eco lead still actually slightly in favour of Popeye, but that now does swap around with another villager going down. 6 villagers forced idle in the TC. Slingers trying to be made. It looks like Popeye was planning to go for the first bronze there. But I think this is going to be the Bronze Age that was never meant to be. And villagers do come out and try to get some damage done. But Axis stands strong. 4 villagers down now. And this has all come undone just from Popeye just missing that that one villager coming forward. That's how close the margins can be in this game sometimes near axes. Even with needle working in, this number of axes is still plenty enough to deal with villagers. And I think this is probably going to be GG called fairly quickly. Popeye going for a last ditch effort. And yeah, he has the food, didn't ever get the second building up. And yeah, that's all she wrote, I think, boys and girls. Well, he thought he had himself properly walled up. That's why he went for a greedy defense. But yeah, this all kind of came down to just the miss on the villager. You can see this is Popeye's point of view. So there was that moment where he did see the villager there. Oh well, could have seen the villager there. Obviously he was probably paying attention to somewhere else at the time. And like I said, I think he just had himself in a position where he could be fully walled. I mean, obviously it is quite greedy to not go for the barracks. But yeah, Vertex maybe a little bit lucky there to not get that villager spotted. Because I feel like that's the thing Vertex does a lot, is he kind of like, he right-clicks his villager forward and it just like face plants into the opponent's base and they just spot it. I feel like that's happened multiple times for Vertex. But yeah, so I didn't actually... So it's 2-1 to Vertex, so he takes the lead again. So a little bit more one-sided of a game there. Like I said, once that barracks kind of went up and Popeye didn't have a barracks of his own, that was always going to be pretty rough for him. Like I said, he just thought he had himself safe in that little pocket. So the Minoans do manage to get the rush out, just about, against the Phoenicians there. Which brings us to game 4, which is going to be on Inside Out. So Popeye going to his map. And we do have the Egyptians, but Popeye did pick the Assyrians above the Egyptians, which makes me curious what the pick is going to be for him. Possibly the Romans from Vertex. We do see the Romans come out fairly frequently on Inside Out. Just so, like I said, they have not the strongest early game, but they still have a fairly solid early game, and then just the push with the towers is always quite difficult to deal with. I mean, I mean, Popeye was still in on the Highland game, was still fighting with Vertex toe to toe in the Tool Age, I'd say. I think it was just Popeye tried to go a little bit greedy on this map. I think that was just the problem there. Like I said, I think he just had had himself closed off. When I can see the brackets, I think we can, after this series, we can have another quick look at the brackets. I know I do actually have it here. Look, they haven't. Oh no, they just launched the game now, so I'll just go into the game. I was going to say, because they've not launched the game, but they have now launched the game. Have a look at the bracket quickly after this match. And like I said, we do have another series to play after this one, which is actually meant to be starting in 12 minutes. So hopefully we can make sure that's being sorted out. I have not clicked to spectate the game. What have I done wrong here? I need to click this, and I need to do that. Failed to download match. Interesting. Let me just refresh that there. Don't know what's gone wrong there. I think I should have a link to the brackets in my description, actually. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I didn't add it in there. I can't 100% remember. Did this game... They don't have a re. No longer available. For some reason I can't join the lobby. Spectate. Okay, there we go. Eventually got in. That was a bit weird. So, game 4 of this best of 5 series. So, Vertex on series point now. And we do see the Romans. It's actually the Carthaginians is the choice from Popeye here. So he didn't go... Maybe he suspected some early shenanigans from Vertex and just wanted to be able to match the early game. But this does mean that if Popeye does bring this to a game 5, his remaining civilizations are the Assyrians and the Egyptians for inland, which I think I would have slightly preferred to see the Carthaginians from Popeye here. But like I said, maybe he just felt he just needed to bring out his strongest remaining civ just to even get to the game 5, just respecting his opponent. Like I said, we do see the Romans coming out from Vertex, and like I said, we do see this civ come out quite a bit on this map, which is kind of interesting in a way, because obviously they're pretty strong in the earlier phase of the game, but I don't think the Roman Bronze Age is that great. So if you can withstand the sort of early assault, then the Romans do... Well, they don't fall off, but I just don't think they're quite as strong as some other civs in the Bronze Age. I think the Carthaginian Bronze Age is just stronger than the Roman Bronze Age, for example, in terms of the power of just like their military. Obviously, in the later phases, the Romans like to use their swordsman line, but the Carthaginians have one of the best academies in the game, which is a pretty good answer to that. But we'll see how this goes. So Popeye does have both of his berries at the back, and he does see one of them there. So that's quite nice for him. Vertex, unfortunately, has one of his extra berry patches forward. He does have the one back, though, at least. But a small advantage in terms of the map, arguably, there. Although, that said, gold forward for Popeye. And obviously, Carthaginians, another civ that is quite reliant on that gold. You do have two reasonably large patches of gold inside your base at the start of this map. But it just means, yeah, he's going to have to go to the center of the map to find extra gold, whereas Vertex has 2 gold behind him. So you could argue the longer the game goes, map's actually slightly in favor of Vertex, but just, yeah, food the most important thing in the earlier phases of the game. And Villager already out and about for Vertex. And again, he nearly face plants on his opponent. I don't know, potentially, if Popeye saw this. He's gone double barracks of his own, though, before Vertex even has his barracks up. And Popeye up on only 2 seconds idle. I mean, obviously the Carthaginians get the extra 50 food. But this is what I was saying. Popeye's had a very solid early stages to the game. I know, and as we're saying, Vertex an advantage in the earlier phases, but I think it was just, again, just in that particular map, last one, Popeye just went for a little bit more of a greedy approach. Popeye is very solid tool age player. Market coming down nice and early, I guess, yeah, just to get stone mining in, because he's just going slingers, interestingly. So just committing straight into the slinger there. Oh, doesn't want to go through the gate just yet, I would have thought. Yeah, AXA, tool working. But like I said, I think if Popeye can just sort of hold position, get some good trades, once both civs get up to the Bronze Age, I do prefer the Carthaginians. Obviously, if the game goes uber long, then the Romans do get the Scythe Chariot. But we'll have to see how that goes. So stone mining in nice and early, and so these slingers are already going to be a reasonable threat against the axes. Not a huge number of them yet. Bowmen are being added in now as well, and Vertex, ooh, got a little bit melee form there for Popeye. May get his units caught. There's a good number of axes here, so Popeye might just want to fall back. Sorry, I'm going to probably zoom out a little bit more. I'm probably making people a bit queasy with a few too many micro movements there. Bowman comes in, slingers dancing backwards and forwards. I don't think he can actually get through. Oh no, he can get through that gate there he wants, but yeah, maybe Popeye a little bit clumsy with these slingers here. Like I say, maybe he should have waited to just get a little bit more massive units, so yeah, he's just going to run with those now. So a little bit of a few units kind of wasted there for Popeye. Yeah, 4-0 in the KD, not the best of starts there. And Popeye is trying to set himself up on the farms already. I don't know why we're going this way with the farms. We've got some space here. Yeah, farms already being added in. I don't think Popeye... Yeah, no, he didn't see his berries on this side. He should know they're back there, though. Actually, Vertex is going to break through. There are a few archers, bowmen in defense for sorry, Popeye, I'm getting the names confused this game. But Slinger's already in a decent number, and like I said, I think Popeye may have potentially already let this game slip away slightly by throwing away those early slingers. 7-0 is the KD now. A lot of these axes are going to get taken down, but Popeye's house is also going to drop in the process. The Vertex is going to be in here, And like I said, military units do favour Vertex. Slinger gonna have to go running. And Popeye gonna be in sort of panic situations. He does manage to clear up all the axes. So we're into Slinger territory now. I think Popeye just needs to actually pull villagers in here now. Try and use villagers to try and clear off some of the Slinger numbers. One eco kill in favour of Vertex. And yeah, here we go with the villagers now. It's a little bit difficult, obviously, with the villagers not having any sort of attack stance. And needlework is in, though. So villagers can fight back to some degree against the slingers. But yeah, Popeye in a little bit of a difficult situation. I think he needs to sort of start thinking about moving more eco outside, maybe start building some more farms on the outside. He's got plenty of wood. Maybe just bit of a panic situation. And I think, I don't know if Popeye is going to be able to hold this now. Like I said, he's in that situation where you're in a little bit of panic mode. You may not have the food to just keep supporting military. It's down to the one bowman. Villagers managing to pick off slingers here and there. But yeah, now 5 eco kills. Like I said, I felt like Popeye had set himself up quite nicely, but unfortunately he just threw away those early this early slingers, and that was just too much of a swing in favour of Vertex in terms of just military counts. And now, yeah, the eco lead 35 to 28. And well, I think you've got to say now this is probably Vertex's game wrapped up in what's been quite back and forth series. Like I said, I think we had that very strange game 1 situation. We had 2 restarts and then we had to have the earthquake pause. But it looks like Popeye's actually going to chop his way out, which may actually help him in some ways. But yeah, I think the eco advantage is just too much in favour of Popeye, of Vertex now. So it was going to be. We have had some nice games here. Game 3, unfortunately, Popeye just narrowly missing that villager. That second game was a pretty nice, solid game from Popeye there. But it looks like Vertex has still managed to get the better of the people's champion, Popeye. Oh boy. He's trying to sell off some of that big amount of wood he's got to just try and do anything really. Yeah, he's bought some food. He is trying to sort of rebuild a little bit of a base, but Vertex, yeah, way ahead on the eco. It's probably going to be able to get to a point fairly soon. We've already 22 on food that... I mean, he's actually still committing to Axer from 3 barracks. But like, potentially Vertex will even be clicking to Bronze Age soon. And Popeye is just going to be stuck forever in the Tool Age. Did find his second berry patch in the end. But yeah, just lost complete control of his base. Has built another archery range on the outside here. But slinger number's already at 8, so bowman not going to be able to do a huge amount. Does have 3 bows actually plinking away in the centre of the map, getting some damage done. But yeah, villager jumps back in the TC. So I guess Popeye's probably just going to play this one out, as he's going to be out of the tournament after this game. But yeah, 17-ville lead now for Vertex. Does have the eco, just needs the second building to come down. And there we go, stable coming down from him now. And we do see Watchtower come in, but yeah, villagers forced to run again. And yeah, like I said, I don't feel there's really much more to say about this game. Popeye is holding on for the time being, but I think for all intents and purposes, this game is kind of over. Yeah, Bronze Age is being clicked in now. And yeah, like I said, it's a little bit of a shame that Popeye didn't manage to make a bit more of a fight of this particular game, especially after the game on Coastal. So again, I feel like he had himself set up quite nicely. He just had pushed out a little bit too early with those slingers, and kind of just got crowded out by all the axes. Vertex is just going to find this wood line again. Gold mining coming in, and I wouldn't be surprised to see just a few cavalry units come out. But yeah, maybe GG just gets called now with the villagers getting caught out. Yeah, we go GG.
Yes.
And like I said, maybe a slightly disappointing last two games from Popeye there. A little bit of a greedy approach on the coastal map, and just missing that one villager. Like I said, if he spots that villager, I think he's completely fine there, because Vertex had only sent the one villager. But yeah, still solid games from Popeye. Like I said, that very nice game too from him there. But yeah, again, I'll just go back just to the moment where it kind of all came undone. Slingers went out a little bit early, and I think the sort of the next pump of axes came out, and then these axes got pulled out back, sorry, and Vertex just got a bit of a surround. And even though this thing is already did have stone mining in, you can't really fight against axes when they've already closed down the gap. And yeah, just lost all this early momentum, and then just the military favoured count just went massively in favour from Vertex, and Popeye just couldn't hold the line after that point. Yeah, little slingers basically going down for almost free, like hardly any real damage done to the axes there. He did sort of manage to kill off a few of the axes with the bows, but then just a big enough number of slingers in addition to the axes for Vertex that he was just able to push through. And GG's to Vertex. Commiserations to Popeye. Like I said, some good performances from him. I'm sure we'll see him again in tournaments in the future. And like I said, just a few missteps from Popeye in all the games he lost, but otherwise still decent performance.